everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What is up, you ducks? It's All in Football, live on FTN, which if you want to check out FTN, we can give away my code again. 20% off, all in. Get you the code over there. Thumbs up if you like the show. We get more thumbs ups. We need them. We need the help. Make this get out there to everybody out there. Get this out there to everybody out there. That makes a lot of sense.
It does. I knew you were saying. I think the people know too.
Subscribe, 5 stars, all the good stuff. We are 1 week away, by the way, from the Athletic Magazine drop on Amazon.
Baby.
By the way, in case you're wondering, yes, it is the same content you will get on the website. There is a QR code in the magazine that updates, so you can go to the website and see the updated my projections and stuff like that, and then you can still play with them on the website. So you can do all that good stuff. It's just if you wanted something tangible to bring to your draft, it's like it's all in the one place. Basically, you printed out our entire draft kit and put it in a book, and that's what we did. Or you could give it away as a present or something like that. Congratulations. I don't know if he wants me to do this, but I'm doing it anyway because there's so many people up at Game Plus, hello Canada, and everybody out there that know him. There's a good chance Nando's having the baby today. Just want to give a shout out to Nando DeFino. So he's probably going to be pissed off I did that, but that's because he likes to be private. But like we all love Nando, so we have to do that.
I'm immediately texting him after this show, and he's going to be like, Jakey.
The best part, Jakey, God, I hate Jakey. The best part is he voice to texted me Jakey from in the car, and I got the text. It's like, we'll do Jakey. It spelled it I-E instead of E-Y, and he always puts a ton of Y's on Jakey too. It's Jakey. So he did it, and he said, I don't know if the phone put all the wires on there, but if they didn't, imagine they're there. So good old voice to text on that one. So,
my uncle too, he was texting me yesterday for home run derby props, and he's like, by the way, if you can't tell, I'm voice texting. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can tell. None of what you're saying makes any sense at all. So.
The wires instead of the Y's. In case you're not any sense, we'll see if it's listening today for that transition. There you go. We're going to continue with the roulette wheel. We have about 17 teams left, somewhere around there. I'm Ron Burgundy, as I say this. We're talking about the home run derby. Yeah, I'm depressed. I got my Mets hat on. I'm depressed. Pete Alonso. By the way, has he been hanging out with Max Scherzer a little bit? He borderline psycho. If you're watching the home run derby, my buddy texted me during because he knows I'm watching it. He knows I'm a Mets fan and Alonso fan and everything like that. He goes, dude, Alonso looks like he's sitting in the basement waiting for the judgment of his murder trial.
So last year I thought he was a little cuckoo, but just very intense. And he certainly is an intense dude. There's no question about it, right? When he's sitting there working out, before he gets out there and
250?
smashes 30 balls.
It was
over.
250,
Yeah,
right? The deadlifts?
Wild, man. The deadlifts before you go out there. I was thinking that would take a lot of energy out, but maybe it just psychs you up. And I'm sure he's been doing it for
No, he lost
years,
because of his
obviously.
dad. He lost because his
pitching was
dad
brutal.
took freaking 15 minutes between every single pitch.
It was pretty bad, yeah. And he couldn't get into a rhythm, and you could tell he was just really, really frustrated. Maybe he put more pressure on himself this year. I saw the interview before it started, how he was it's for, his own cause, animal shelter and just helping people. So this was maybe a different feel for him. Sometimes you put that added pressure on. I don't know. He didn't seem like he had any pressure because he's like, yeah, I've won this thing twice, back-to-back years. I'm fine. But, man, watching him yesterday – just with the eyes closed and the camera was on him, I'm like, man, this guy is in the zone for just issues.
Max Scherzer level type stuff. He's going to get to that. There's an article on The Athletic a few weeks ago. They mentioned Max Scherzer. So he took a bet early on. I think it was $1,000. And I think it was Dusty Baker. I don't remember. Go check out the article if you want. Talking about how crazy Max Scherzer is. And the bet was go out there, throw one warm-up pitch and tell the ump you're ready. And if you do that, because he always said what he was saying was when he was playing, when you watch pitchers warm up, it wouldn't freak him out to see a pitcher in his groove or throwing wildly or take 20 pitches. What would freak him out if they only took a handful and were ready? and like that's what would kind of throw him off. So he was making a bet. He was saying, you throw one pitch and say you're ready. And he did it, and it wasn't a very good outing, but he won the bet. But anyway, that's a completely sidebar. As we talk baseball for a second, everybody completely tunes out. Don't thumbs down because we talked baseball. We're still talking football.
We're here for football. We're here for football.
And I don't think, have we gotten to this team? Yeah, we did do this team. We have already done the Jets, but we have to talk about the Jets off the top real quick because the Breece Hall news. Breece Hall has yet to sign his contract. Apparently, because of the other contract unrelated to like another player drafted in the second round, signed 3-year guaranteed part of it of his deal, and Breece Hall wants that. There are now a lot of players at the top of the second round that are pushing for more guaranteed years and more guaranteed money as kind of the NFL continues to shift down that road. But point being is, Breece Hall's unsigned as of today, Chris. There's a chance, we're getting close, there's a chance that camps might open and he's not there. We've talked about on that show, and I'm one of the champions of, the Jets are going to use him a hell of a lot. I keep saying, like James Conner and Chase Edmonds, not the 50-50 share we saw with the Broncos, because they moved up 2 spots, which tells me how bad they wanted him once he slid. Like, you move up 2 spots, you're that scared you're not going to get him.
Right.
Talent, great. We love Michael Carter. It's sad, but if you're drafting now, are you starting to get a little bit concerned? Are you starting to get a little bit concerned? Or, running back seems to be the easiest. I mean, I say seems, but it is. We've talked about it. I might as well just say it is. It's one of the easiest transitions from college to the NFL position-wise.
Yeah.
So he can miss a week or 2 at camp and still step in as a great. But it's the week or 2 at camp missing in the fact of how the coaches feel and how the coaches feel about, like, what if Carter looks good while he's sitting out, which he should. Are you moving Hall down your draft boards with this news?
Yeah, and did they move up to get Carter last year too? I don't know. I feel like maybe they did, but I do agree with you in terms of running backs, like a wide receiver missing time, not getting the rapport with the quarterback and the playbook and understanding that, and the quarterback you're right, a running back can kind of maybe just step in. I'm not concerned just yet, but I saw that report this morning. I was thinking, like, this isn't something that has really taken place over the past few years. Like, we haven't really seen a running back hold out or not get that contract. I don't think I'm moving him. I still think he's a pretty good target, roughly RB 18 for me. I think I've moved him up to 17 or 18 over the past, couple of weeks. I'm with you. I think he is going to get a bulk of the workload. Certainly first down, second down, he can catch too. We already poured one out for a guy, Michael Carter. So I don't think I'll move him just yet. No concerns as of now. I suppose if you're drafting this week, he may fall a couple spots. That's what happens in fantasy football. Leonard Fournette is going to fall a couple spots when news breaks. This is what happens at this point of the year in July. So I don't think so. I think it's fine. I would like to see him as rookies report to camp this week. I saw 3 or 4 teams, the Falcons, we're seeing Drake London and some rookies on other teams show up to their squad. So if we're talking, in 2 weeks and he still isn't signed, then yeah. Well, because you're right. Carter's going to get in there and get more reps. He's familiar with the playbook.
Well, let's continue down this conversation because if signed, so Jiggles in chat said he's supposed to sign a contract today. And now there's like the conflicting reports as I'm pulling this up. But it's coming from the same person that got called out by J.K. Dobbins yesterday. And it's from Rappaport. So,
yeah.
So all right. Because
Dobbins is coming. Had a moment of silence on his show yesterday for Rappaport. So,
I know. Pat McAfee, struggling podcaster out there, getting all that NFL talent from day one. He's the small man like us. He had to really come up and build his podcast. Good for him. Good for him. He's got J.K. Dobbins and Rappaport. I like to see him succeed. It was a struggle to get there. But anyway, so the Breece Hall. Now Scott's saying it's official. I'm still seeing the one where he says likely. I'm seeing the likely to sign the contract today from Rappaport that it's still not official. Let's say, all right, let's come back to it. Let's say he signs today. Is everything just mended fences with that so he can cover all bases with it? You have him 18. I had him at 18. I've had him at 18 this entire time. So,
yeah. I think so. Yeah. I'm seeing it too. Some different reports, but it is likely. Likely is Jiggle saying Jets announced the signing on their website. So that's, I think, more credible than Rap Sheet.
So Rappaport's getting beat up by the Jets now, too?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, here we go. I mean, it looks like he signed, so I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. If it lingered on, I don't think there would be bad blood. As you mentioned, they traded up 2 spots to get this guy, Isabel Cow, back. They've done a lot of good things in the draft over the past couple of years. So, yeah, just figure it out, New York. Like, get this guy on the squad and have him there as camps open up to get those reps.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Dobbins one and talk about the rap sheet situation. So Rappaport says J.K. Dobbins might not be ready for week 1. J.K. Dobbins comes back out and says, check your paraphrasing, check your sources. Yeah. I'm going to be fine. I don't know who you're talking to. Yeah. Rappaport, as you mentioned, was on the McAfee show and said, I trust my sources, especially this one, blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't be the first time. And not like Rappaport, Kuiper, like there's not 100% hit rate. Horse sources are sources, and you know they do their best, and a lot of times they get some good insight. I mean, you go back to Josina Anderson. I forget who it was. She was saying was likely to sign somewhere in free agency, and it was completely a different team, or the trade was to go down. I forget who it was off the top of my head, but there was one where she missed on that one. So I'm not saying that to call anybody out. They're doing their job. We're not perfect in predicting fantasy player success. So not calling out. I was making jokes about McAfee when he talked about that, like, you know, that it was a struggle to come up through this podcast world. So you know where I was going with that. The truth behind this part of it, though, is what are you feeling with J.K. Dobbins? Because as much as there could be a truth to Dobbins' side, there could be a truth to Rappaport side. You know, it's one of those arguing situations. Usually the truth is in the middle. I did move Dobbins down a little bit. I gave a little bit more of his share to Edwards, and I gave a little bit of the share to Batty and whatever to Mike Davis, the trickle-down effect of the team. But it's not even so much like I believe one side or the other. It's just, even if he is ready for week 1, maybe my 180 to 200 carries was a little bit aggressive no matter what. And this is a more split backfield. And in that case, that drops him outside the top 25 for my running backs, and I love J.K. Dobbins. He's in my breakout running backs article, so that pained me, Chris. I hope I'm wrong on that sense because I hope he gets the 200-plus carries, but I'm thinking that might not happen until 2023. As I remember the years right now. 2023.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm with you. I don't know what else I could add. I looked at my rankings. I was adjusting them last night. I have them as RB26. I got guys like Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Etienne, obviously ahead of those guys, right around there. A.J. Dillon, you know, Miles Sanders, CEH, Walker. I like the player a lot. I'm with you. You wrote him up weeks and weeks ago before you start to hear these reports about a breakout candidate. We didn't see him at all last year. He was so strong towards the end of his rookie season. He was like a touchdown per game guy. Wasn't catching a lot of balls out of the backfield, but just looked like he just fit in so nicely into that system. I also moved Gus Edwards up a little bit. Yeah, it's, you know, if I don't know which side to believe. I'm sure J.K. Dobbins feels like he's going to be ready, and he quote retweeted that, and paraphrasing too, he said, you know, he'd be damn sure he's ready for week 1. He's not posting videos and things like that, but you know, at the time of the injury, I did see a lot of fantasy doctors talk about it being like a 15-month injury recovery time. Yeah. So yeah, like we said, I think a couple weeks ago before, you know, Rap Sheet tweeted this, I think it was you and I and Lauren, we talked about all liking the player, but we wanted to see him get on the field. That's very important. Coming back from a significant knee injury, for him to get on the field and have some reps to get some carries with the squad.
Was it maybe the fact that Cam Akers basically took the injury timeline and like balled it up and threw it out? And like, it's like,
I see people talking about James Robinson. Why are people drafting James Robinson? They're saying, well, because he suffered Achilles injury, but you know, doctors and medicine and, you know,
and James Robinson is going to be like
things happen.
Full year.
Almost. Like Akers, what he did was maybe the outlier, certainly. What he was able to do was pretty impressive. AP
it's the Adrian Peterson
years ago,
season.
Right? The knee came back, won MVP. He was phenomenal too. I think it's a risky pick, Jake. I think it's a risky pick right now is like RB 24, 25.
Well, then let me do a little comparison, which, by the way, before, you didn't appreciate my Schroeder, but it's Dr. Strange as Schroeder. Because you saw Dr. Strange, right?
The monitor in front of me is always a little blurry. So
you saw the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the piano scene. Obviously.
I haven't seen the latest one yet.
You haven't seen the latest one?
No. I know, I dropped the ball. I just saw Jurassic Park and Top Gun the other day, so like that's next, and then I'll do the Thor. So I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball here.
So you should see. You already saw the best one in Top Gun. Jurassic Park would have been the last one, and then I should have I'd go.
We did a drive. We went to the drive-in, and they both played. So
okay. So I would put Strange third. I like Thor better than Strange. I know some people will disagree with me, but
Thor that surprises me. I just figured
just
Strange.
Fun in my opinion. I think people just love to crap on everything nowadays. Anyway, like they just it's such. I was the cynical asshole for years, and I feel like now I'm sitting back as I get older and be like, man, America needs to chill out. Like,
it's everything. It's everything. Something can be so phenomenal. Last night, I know back to baseball. I watched the first episode of the Captain Derek Jeter doc. And I just forgot it was coming out. It's like a 7-part series. I'm like, oh, that's a bit much. But it came right after the home run derby. And I was like, wow, I actually kind of enjoyed that, even though I don't like the Yankees. And I just see some rumblings on Twitter like, oh, I wish this, I wish that. It's like, guys, it's just one episode in. You may see that stuff yet. Let's not say it's awful before you've seen at least half of it. So it's just the way the world works. Everybody wants to find something to complain.
It really is. Did you see Stranger Things season 4? Did you watch it?
I am like 3-4 episodes left. I think it's
I can't even do that. I can't even do a spoiler.
Maybe next
you
week
should
we
be
can
on.
chat.
I should just drop stuff anyway because you're past the spoiler deadline. But I won't do it too because we're friends.
Listen,
we're
you
friends.
did this.
We're
You
friends.
helped me. We are friends, and you and Joe helped me out. I remember Game of Thrones. I had to put the headset off when we had the show on Target. I literally had to mute myself, take the headset, put it away, and then you guys would text me and be like, "Okay, we're done now," because I was so far behind, and you guys shouldn't have given me the benefit of the doubt. You guys definitely should have been able to talk about the final season, and I was over at season 3. But
for anybody out there that doesn't know,
I'm always behind.
So we came up with a timeline. We came up with it. It is 3 weeks for a movie, 3 weeks for a movie, so 21 days. And then we said we went back and forth on this one. I think we pushed it up to full week. Joe and I were on the side of like 4 days if it's a show like Game of Thrones. And but I think so it's 1 week for a TV show, 3 weeks for a movie, and then all gloves are off. Spoilers are spoilers. You get them.
You can say whatever you want next week. Stranger Things, I'll be finished. I'll be done.
I mean, you're well past the
hear
deadline.
anything
But
about
I'll
the
give you
ending.
that.
I am.
By the way, streaming shows. Oh, that's. Streaming shows are different because Stranger Things has multiple episodes and it's more than a movie. So I think that one was 5. It was 1-3-5. It was 1 for the TV show that airs weekly, 3 for a movie, and then 5 for a full-on streaming show where everything drops at once. So you might still be in the window. You're technically.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the window, I think, with Stranger Things. I think I'm in the window a little bit.
This is what everybody tuned in for, right? Stranger Things, Doctor Strange.
Old Target.
Wait, do we have something else strange?
Memories.
What else do we like strange? Doctor Strange, Stranger Things. We could like something like. We got to do something more. They're gonna be.
I'm sure the next team that the team that we got.
It'll be a strange team. Is that what you're going with?
Strange team to figure.
Let's see.
Guaranteed.
What do we have? So we got like legit teams here. We still haven't yet to do the AFC South. The Lions. That's the Commanders. That's like. I know. I don't even. By the way, dude, I don't want to talk Commanders. Don't do it to us. Don't do it. It's Commanders are coming. No, they already passed. Cardinals.
Mysterious ways. Okay, Cardinals.
Cardinals. There's a lot to chew on here with the Cardinals, honestly. Potentially strange situation here. Quarterback. You don't care about the contract with Kyler Murray, but what you might care about, I'm speaking for you, Chris. I know like the contract's you're not gonna value your fantasy opinion on whether or not he got a new deal or not. What it's gonna come down to is we saw last year the difference between Kyler Murray with Hopkins and without DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray with Hopkins was number 1 quarterback. He was destroying the season. He was going bananas. And then start to falter. Hopkins banged up. Hopkins completely out, and he slides back. We know Hopkins is suspended. Unlike last year, the next man up is no longer Christian Kirk, who's off in Jacksonville. He's replaced by Marquise Brown. But it's not a 1-for-1, Chris. But I don't think it's enough of an upgrade to say we're okay with Kyler with no DeAndre Hopkins because it's still Marquise Brown. Maybe Rondale Moore finally does his thing. AJ Green is I mean, he might as well just be sitting on the front porch somewhere just drinking tea. Like, just retire at this point. For fantasy purposes, we love you, AJ Green. One of the best to ever play the game.
One of the best, for sure. Yeah.
But how do you feel about Kyler right now? Because right now, I've been pretty much out on Kyler. I haven't been getting into many drafts because I have Kyler at 7. Because I can't ignore those first 6 weeks. Like, I think once Hopkins comes back, sure, but I think those first 7 weeks, or 6 weeks, and the thing with Kyler is he doesn't want to run anymore. Or not anymore. doesn't want to run like he was running. And that's a significant hit, too, when you're only rushing for 400, 500, 600 versus 700, 800. That's a big difference in fantasy.
It is. It's a huge difference. And it's been like back-to-back years now where this guy was like on his way to QB1, QB2, being like a fantasy football MVP. And then an injury has kind of, slowed him down. A couple years ago, it was the shoulder, I think in a Thursday night game. And then he just really didn't run at all. And it was halfway. The first part of the season was just all him running everything in from the red zone. And I remember Kenyon Drake was on the squad and he wasn't getting any goal line touches. And then that second half was all Kenyon Drake. And then last year I felt like he wasn't running as much in the second half inside the red zone either. And then James Conner had that big season. I like Kyler as a player. I still think that there's a pretty high ceiling there. I'm with you on the draft rank. I only have one share of him so far. I feel like kind of where he's going in that range with like Burrow and Stafford and Wilson, I'm just willing to I'm fine with those guys, but willing to maybe wait a little bit later for like a Carr or a Lance, maybe even later than that with like Fields or Cousins, who knows. I know those guys aren't super overwhelming. Like the upside doesn't seem to be high, but Cousins gets it done. It's a concern with Hopkins. And not only like from Kyler from a fantasy standpoint, this team didn't win a lot of football games without Hopkins on the squad. They started off the season, 8-1, 8-2, like they were unbelievable. And then down the stretch, they couldn't win any games without Hopkins, and they got crushed in the playoffs against the Rams. So no Hopkins to start. Kyler, there's a rapport with Kyler in Hollywood, but it's still a new system, new offense. I'm sure there's going to be some, chemistry things to kind of work out. Zach Ertz on the squad. I think they got the best of AJ Green. I think they got what they got from AJ Green. 800 yards? It blew me away. I didn't think that he would flirt with 1,000 yards. So I think they got the best case scenario out of him. Maybe he's a factor in the first couple weeks, but when Hopkins comes back, he's not going to be. The guy that I just can't seem to figure out is Rondale Moore. Like he's going around round 10. We've only seen little bits and pieces from him. He's just going to be a slot guy. He just seems like a guy that maybe Jake, best case scenario, is like, he had 7 catches for 42 yards. Okay. It's okay. It's not great. It doesn't seem like if you're not in a full point PPR league, like what is this guy for you? He's just a bench piece.
Well, and that's so a couple things to unpack from everything you included there. So did you know, do you want to guess how many rushing touchdowns Kyler had without Hopkins in the lineup?
Without him? Man.
Yes.
3?
0. All 5 of his rushing touchdowns came with DeAndre Hopkins the first 3 weeks.
The offense rolls better, right?
Yep. And then the week 13, that first game, Hopkins came back. Actually, it was when Kyler, they both missed time. They were both back together. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. And after that, it was pretty much downhill. He actually ran for more yards when there was no Hopkins a lot of times. But the rushing touchdowns only came with Hopkins in the line. Interesting. I obviously don't think it's going to be 100%, but you just mentioned it. The offense rolls better. Yes, there's obvious rapport with Hollywood Brown. He knows how to play with him. He's played with him before. They ate breakfast together and lunch, and they had a bunk bed, and they did activities. Like, they know each other. But Marquise Brown is not DeAndre Hopkins, and that's going to be a difference. And then you just mentioned it. I think there's a lot of love for the talent of Rondale Moore, but we can have love for a lot of players' talents, and if we haven't seen it yet, and Mecole Hardman snapped back at somebody in the fantasy community on Twitter who was saying, is he ever going to happen? And he's like, obviously this guy knows what he's talking about. And, again, I don't like to downplay players too much because of that reason. They're real humans. Like, it'd be, somebody who's out there like, what does Jake know what he's talking about? Like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. But at the same time, we're open to criticism because these are our jobs, and not every player can be DeAndre Hopkins. And then actually at this point of his career, DeAndre Hopkins, arguably not necessarily even DeAndre Hopkins, but it's a waterfall effect with this offense. I'm with you. So let's talk about, we've kind of broken down the wide receivers in here. So let's talk about his tight end, Zach Ertz, who without DeAndre Hopkins and after that trade, Zach Ertz was a top 5 tight end while he was with the Cardinals. Top 5. Resurrected his career. Do we expect similar success at this point? He's really getting up there in age and mileage, but tight end's one of the positions where it seems you can hang on a little bit longer, especially if somebody of his talent. Does Zach Ertz deserve to be a top 10 tight end?
I think so, yeah. He's just a good He's just a good player, man. I think people just wrote him off in Philly. They wanted him out of town. There was a bit of a contract dispute there, and then they drafted Goddard, so you just didn't know if, there was a future for him in Philadelphia. But what he did, you're right. What he did in Arizona, he was certainly a tight end one. His usage rose up. I know they drafted a guy, McBride, and they still have Max XX Williams on the squad, but I think there was a safety valve there for Kyler. Right, I really do. I feel like he looked his way, and without Hopkins there for the first 6 weeks, I feel like he's the number 2 option in this passing game. I think it will be Hollywood. I'm in on Hollywood. I've been on record on the show to say that. I am drinking the Kool-Aid and the rapport for them guy. I just think he's a good player, and he had a breakout season last year. Now he goes, I think, to what I think is a slightly better quarterback and an up-tempo offense, and they're going to pass the ball a little bit more than they did in Baltimore. So I am in on Hollywood. He may be one of those guys that you sell high, if he has a first. And it's always tough to do that, but if he balls out in the first 3 or 4 weeks and Hopkins coming back, it's something to think about anyways. But I am in on Zach Ertz for the tight ends and where they go. I think I'm not going to have a lot of shares of the top guys. I'm not going to have a lot of shares of Kelsey. I like Pitts. I probably won't have much of anyone else inside that top 5. Like, I don't think I'll have much of Kittle. I'm kind of out on Hawkinson, and I'm out on Goddard. So I think, after those guys come off the board, I do like Ertz a little bit. I was trying to dig up some more, Kyler stuff here, as you alluded to, because I did write a little bit of a preview for our old buddy Joe Pisapia in the Fantasy Black Book. So just, I was looking at it. They started 8-2, and without Hopkins on the squad, 3-4. Like, without him on the field, they were 3-4 as a team. And the numbers, which you alluded to earlier, no rushing touchdowns, the numbers came down.
A lot of 0 and 1 touchdown games.
A lot of 0 and 1 touchdown games. A lot of them. Yeah, you really needed to get the 40-plus rushing yards for him to find the end zone, for him to, return the value, the price that you spent on him. So is that going to be very similar here in the first 6 weeks? And also, what I do want to say about Hopkins, 8 touchdowns, but he averaged 4.2 catches, 6.4 targets last year. In 2021, he averaged 10 targets and 7.1 catches. That's a pretty big drop-off. We're looking from 6 to 10 targets, from 7 to 4 catches. Somebody wrote me the other day and said, is he surprised where Hopkins is going in drafts? I said, he's suspended for 6 games. Said, whatever. When he comes back, he's still one of the best wide receivers in the game. Is he? If he's healthy week 7, where do you think you'll rank him? I know it's a loaded question. But if he's healthy week 7, he's probably not a wide receiver 1 anymore. Is he a 2?
Well, let me kind of flip it around on you. Let's say he wasn't suspended. And let's just, like looking down my ranks. So at wide receiver 20, I have, nope, those are quarterbacks. If this page would update on me over here. Oh, not working. I'll have to just I don't know, refresh. I'm trying to click so I can tell you who is wide receiver 20. I know who wide receiver 18 is Allen Robinson. I can tell you that much. So wide receiver 20, Mike Williams. DK Metcalf at 21. Drake London 22. I might slide Hopkins in at 22.
Yeah.
That's because going up from there, Robinson, Cooks, Cooper, Pittman, Moore, Allen.
I want all those guys.
Full season, I'm taking all of them over Hopkins at this point. I saw somebody tweet this, so I don't want to steal from him, but it's a good thing that it had popped into my mind too. Is there a big difference at Hopkins and Julio? Late Julio career at this point? Now, granted, Julio's years ahead of Hopkins falling down in his production, but are we looking at Julio from 2-3 years ago now with DeAndre Hopkins? Is that the path he's on?
Potentially, man, it just happens. It really just happens for guys in the NFL, wide receivers, and now he's coming off this significant injury, and he wasn't a guy that looked like he created separation last year. I still think he's got, if we're talking about him as a weapon in the red zone and hands, I think he's got still probably the best hands in the league, up there. There's no question about that. But it is the separation, which was a little concern. He was very touchdown dependent last year, and he has been a touchdown beast over the course of his career, but even Casey talking about people just seem to hold on to that upside and to him being a top player. You mix in the bye week, it's still 10 games for your fantasy team. It's just so much trouble. I just feel like you're setting yourself up. I just feel like the risk, I don't know if the reward is really worth it. If there's a setback, what if you have another injury on your squad? You spent a pick on him as wide receiver 34, 35 off the board, and you get another wideout, one of your top ones, and then all of a sudden you're just in such a pinch. I just don't really feel like it's worth it. And I'm concerned about James Conner too, dude. Like he was very efficient with the touchdowns as well.
That's next. I want to, real quick to come back to Zach Ertz. I want to throw out something real quick. Why I'm kind of out on Zach Ertz.
Okay.
Because I feel like he's Frank Gore of tight ends. He finishes back end top 10 because he's going to compile. If you look at last year, yeah, he was top 5 tight end when he came to the Arizona for the rest of the year. But even for the full season, 763 yards and 5 touchdowns. When he was there, one game over 14 points. One game. That was his 2-touchdown game. Even from there, if you look at his game log the rest of the year, he had for the entire season 2 games, one being 10.4 and one being 11.9 in week 18, where he got double-digit points without getting a touchdown. He's actually, if you look at the game log and look, like there's a lot of 60, 50, 40, 60, 50, 40, like a lot of those range. It's fine. That's what's going to get you at tight end, especially in a half-point PPR. You're going to get there. But I think Ertz got to the point where it was so exciting to see him bounce back. And yes, he is a top 10 tight end. But as I say to you every single year, Chris, I never draft tight end 8, 9, 10, 11. Like that's I said everybody wants the running back dead zone. That's my tight end dead zone. I don't want those guys. I don't want the tight end 9 who's going to finish as the tight end 9. I either want the top 6 guy or I want to take one of the flyers who turns into a top 6 guy. So that's why, again, I have Ertz inside my top 10. I just have 0 Ertz on my fantasy teams, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, what you said, I totally agree. And I think we've always been on the same page, is like that range from like 6 to 9. Sometimes there's been some breakout candidates that people love. I mean, you go back to Evan Ingram and OJ Howard and things like that didn't really pan out. But after that 10, I like to target that as well. I know everybody's in on Cole Kmet, but you can still get him as roughly tight end 12, 13 as a guy that could be inside the top 10, as opposed to Ertz. I have him ranked as a top 10. You have him as a top 10 tight end. Would we be shocked if he finished as a top 10 tight end? No, 8, 9. But he's not really like exceeding value to that point. So I totally get what you're saying. The one thing that is appealing to me, and I just feel like we could see this early on in the season, are those targets. I'm looking at the game log, and I'm with you on like the 40 yards or so. But like 9 targets, 7, 11, 13, 9, 10. I don't know how many tight ends we can expect to get in around that range. But again, all bets are off when Hopkins is back on the squad and this guy's maybe getting 4 or 5 targets, or they line up McBride in the slot or on the outside all over the field, and maybe he kind of has a decent second half. So I'm okay with Ertz. I do like what you said about maybe just passing and grabbing a guy outside the top 10. I do think he finishes inside the top 10. I'll say that.
Well, and to give you a real quick idea of the difference here, so almost identical targets, identical receptions, identical yards. Actually, here, I'll just get one fewer target, 1 fewer reception, 17 more yards, but 3 fewer touchdowns. Dropped Zach Ertz to tight end 11, and his name is Mike Gesicki last year. That's all it took, was those 3 touchdowns. And that's why I brought up the games that he didn't score double digits without a touchdown, or did score double digits without a touchdown. All right, so you brought up James Conner. Number 2 in rushing touchdowns last year with 15. Do you remember where he ranked in rushing yards?
I don't think great. I mean, from a yards per carry standpoint, I know he had a career low of 3.7. I don't know. Rushing yards?
Yeah, what's your guess? Come on. Give me a number.
12, 14.
Wrong. 24.
24? It was way
24.
worse than I thought.
He was 24th in rushing yards. You don't remember? 752. 202 carries, 17th in the league for 752 yards.
He had fewer rushing yards than Miles Sanders, and he played 3 more games.
Yes, he had fewer rushing yards than James Robinson, Aaron Jones with a split backfield, A.J. Dillon on the back half of that split backfield, Leonard Fournette in 14 games, David Montgomery in 13 games, Derrick Henry in 8 games. Had almost 200 more rushing yards than James Conner did last year. However, James Conner has one of the most secure guaranteed roles in the NFL. Very much like Leonard Fournette. He is the lead. He is getting the goal line work. He is getting the value touches in a valuable offense. Whether it's Eno Benjamin replacing Chase Edmonds, whether it's Keontae Ingram stepping in place, and it's who... James Conner's getting his share. It might not be pretty, but he's getting his share. Is that touchdown reliance too concerning for you? He is not. The fantasy world is not drafting him as what he finished last year as a top 10 tight end. Nobody is. No. But are you secure enough to say you're okay with him being an RB2?
Yeah, I think he can be an RB2. Like, I don't think he's going to score 18 total touchdowns again, but I certainly think he can read RB2 inside this offense. And if Kyler's not going to run around as much as we've seen in the past, because, I mean, you alluded to it with Kyler earlier, the rushing yards, we just talked about it. Man, but he really wasn't efficient. I didn't think he was that far down, man. I knew like 3.7 yards per carry wasn't good in terms of all the running backs. Like that was a career low for him. And this team finished 10th in rushing yards, but they got a little bit from Kyler and a little bit from Chase Edmonds there. But yeah, man, 3.7 yards per carry. Caught 37 to 39 targets. It's pretty good, pretty efficient. Like he had a big season in Pittsburgh when he was catching a bunch of balls out of the backfield. No Chase Edmonds. They bring in Darrell Williams who can catch it out of the backfield. I think I'm fine with it as an RB2. Like it doesn't seem like a sexy pick. I don't know how he scores 18 touchdowns though. Like he would have to get double digits, I think, for him to be a safe RB2, and I think he could get there. I think he can do that.
One of the highest, by far, one of the highest goal line opportunities last year. Yeah. And so that carries over. So what do you think? So
41 red zone rushing attempts, dude.
I know. So throw out a reasonable number in your opinion. What's a reasonable rushing touchdown expectation you think for him this year?
I think he could get 10. I think reasonable is probably 8. So 15 rushing scores, second to Taylor's 18, 41 red zone rushing attempts.
You're gonna get me easy math, so 10. So I got to chop off 5. Thank you for the easy math. That drops him to 209. That still puts him at running back 10 last year. If you take away
touchdowns,
yeah.
Or just
8? No. You said 10, so I took away 5.
Okay.
So you're saying total. Everybody's like, there's like numbers. Just like put that on the graphic. Just the numbers.
Yeah, he had 18.
Okay, so you're
total,
saying 10 total. I thought. So you screwed up by not listening to my question. I said rushing touchdowns. Everybody out there, check the film.
I'm giving him 8 rushing touchdowns then. 8 rushing.
You're taking 8 off his total. You're dropping him from 18 to 8 or 10 total. That's been completely all over the place. So we're dropping 48 points off his total from last year, which drops him down to 191. Which puts him tied with Dalvin Cook at running back 15, played 13 games. But running back 15. So this is what I'm saying. You chop off 8, and you're still at RB 15 with that inefficiency that he had. So that's just what I wanted to lead into question-wise, Chris. James Conner versus, we're going to do a trifecta here. Not a trifecta, but it's a 3. What's what if like 3 people face each other? I should know this in wrestling. A triangle. We're gonna do no. There's like a word for it. I can't think of what. I'm having such the brain fart right here. Screw it. James Conner versus Javonte Williams versus Aaron Jones.
Oh wow. I think Javonte has the higher ceiling. I kind of like Aaron Jones. I know you don't like him, but I just think he's gonna catch like 60 balls.
No, I like Aaron Jones. I don't like Aaron Jones' role. I said that for years on end.
Fair.
Like Aaron Jones the player, don't like Aaron Jones' role with the Packers.
I'm gonna take Aaron Jones out of that trio. But I mean, if we're talking ADP, if that's what we're talking, then obviously, I mean, what's the picks later on Connor?
Connor,
31,
like a full
Jones,
round,
19,
run and a
like
half,
a full round and a half, yeah. Then I would take Connor in that situation. And Scott says none pick a wide receiver. I kind of agree with that.
Oh, 3-way. Why couldn't I think of 3-way? Like, what the hell?
You couldn't think of a 3-way? Jeez, come on, man. Menage a trois.
We're going to do a menage a trois of running backs versus each other. Oh, my God. Move on to the next team.
Those 3? Connor?
It depends on my first running back.
Yeah.
It would come down to Connor versus Javonte. So the reason I mentioned him is because it's Connor Williams, Aaron Jones in my projections rankings. Like they're bang, bang, bang. That's why I did the 3 of them. If I went risky, like so if I took my first pick was Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, and I have a wide receiver in there, obviously, because I'm taking James Conner in the 3rd round. If I did that, I would take Connor for the safety. If I was more flat and like had security, I would just go with the upside of Aaron Jones or Javonte Williams. It just comes
I'm
down
a
to team
little
makeup.
down on Williams. Like I got Williams at RB 15. I mean, that's like it's.
I'm at 14.
That's
They're
not
only one
fair.
spot behind me.
Okay, and I got Connor at 16, so they're pretty close.
Javonte Williams,
me-
I had Javonte Williams at like 5 or 6 before Melvin Gordon came back. And if they would have brought in, if they would have drafted if they would have signed Mike Davis instead of Melvin Gordon,
Running back for me.
I'd be like, put Javonte Williams at least inside the top 8. He put him in the conversation with Najee Harris and stuff like that. But yeah, you can't ignore that they just want to continue what they're doing with Melvin Gordon. We already talked about that team. All right, we got to get another team in here. We spent so much time on the Cardinals. The Cardinals show today, apparently.
It is. They're an interesting squad, though.
They are. Oh, there's a lot to talk about. Then... Oh, look, we finally got an AFC South team. Finally.
Wow.
It only took. It was listening because we talked about Derrick Henry. So there you go.
Yes, there you go.
The Titans. I'm just.
There's a lot
We need to
here.
like pop off one of those celebration things because we haven't talked the AFC. We got through 2/3 of the league before we finally got. It's a random roulette wheel, and we finally got to the AFC South. First team. I keep arguing and I keep saying, Chris, Derrick Henry is in the conversation for the number 2 pick, and honestly, the number 1 pick. He had more fantasy points per game last year than Jonathan Taylor. And it was a decent clip, too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was 1.5 points. Yes, 1.5 points. Well, 1.3 per game, more than Jonathan Taylor. Sure, Jonathan Taylor doesn't have the workload. Jonathan Taylor doesn't have the injury risk. You want to argue that Jonathan Taylor has a better quarterback. Again, I'm still taking Jonathan Taylor number 1. I'm just saying you can make an argument for Derrick Henry, and especially make an argument for him being number 2. And people say, I'm bat crap crazy. No, I'm duck crap crazy, Chris. Derrick Henry, for the first 2 years of his career, didn't have this workload. If you want to talk about workload getting on top of him. It really isn't a true workload of a running back that's typically seen at this point of his career. He split with Deion Lewis and DeMarco Murray, and then he was Derrick Henry for 2 years, really, and then the half year before he got hurt, which was also the entire history. You and I talked about this last year, and I even said these words. If Derrick Henry gets hurt, it's going to be a freak injury going into the side of his knee because he's just freaking so tall. That's just, You're opening yourself up to it. It's not like it's multiple soft tissues. It's not even like multiple years. First time really ever. In and out on Derrick Henry as the possible number 2 pick. I still see a world where he finishes as the best running back in fantasy because you want to talk about James Conner. He's James Conner, but massively better on a per-touch basis.
Yeah, massively better. And just to kind of hammer home, you just gave the splits, or you just compared him and Taylor, was at a half-point setting. And this may shock people, but in a full point setting, he had 24.2 fantasy points per game to Taylor's 21.9. And this is a guy that caught 18 passes, and Taylor caught 40. So it just goes to show, like, even in a full point setting where people are not really thinking about Henry, he was still an absolute beast. I don't know if I would pull the trigger at 2. I definitely could see in a world where he is, again, the number 1 player in fantasy. You kind of feel like you need to see him fall off before it actually happens. I know people say, oh, I want to be out the year before. But, man, like a lot of people expected the drop-off last year, and it just didn't happen. He was still super efficient. He was still running over people. I don't know. If I had picked 2, I may go like Kupp or CMC, who's a risk in his own way, CMC. But I think, after that, I'm definitely in. Like, he's still, I think, a top 3, top 4 running back. He's still an absolute freak. He's still a monster. They're a run-first team. They don't have a lot of weapons in the offense. They're going to give him the rock. But it's true. He did break his foot. He did break his foot last year, right? But then he came back after that and played on, like, 1 foot.
Do you remember how many carries they gave him in the playoff game?
I don't remember.
They gave him 20 carries.
Yeah. They worked him.
And who's behind? They drafted Haskins.
He's going to continue to work.
A lesser version of Derrick Henry.
Lesser.
And Dontrell Hilliard. Do you know how many carries he averaged per game before he got hurt?
Henry?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I want to say like 20.
You keep going.
Higher?
Yes.
23
Keep going.
and a half.
Keep going.
What?
Keep going.
219 and 8.
Keep
Quick math,
going.
26 carries?
Keep going. 27 and change.
27.
Game log before hurt. 17 in week 1 against Arizona when they got blown out. 35, 28, 33, 29, 20, 29, 28 when he got hurt against Indianapolis.
What a freak. And look at the first couple games too. Like remember he had 9 catches in his first 2 games. Like, oh baby, he's catching. To be fair, like he doesn't catch a lot of balls, but there has been an increase in each of the last 3 years. And he was well on his way. Like he had 19 catches in 2020 in 16 games. He had 18 catches in 2019 with 15 games. And he only played 8 games last year into 18 catches. So I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but 8 more games, that's almost 40 catches, 36. Maybe we could just give him 30. That's like a nice little added boost to a guy that averaged 27 carries per game.
20 average, not touches, people. Average 27 carries per game. So Derrick Henry behind him. I mean, if you want to speculate that it's Haskins because he's the rookie and we've seen enough from the other options behind him as the next man up, if something were to happen again, I'm okay with that. And nobody's really spending much draft capital on Haskins anyway, so it's a fine flyer. The interesting thing here is at wide receiver. You know how I feel, and this is why I want to ask you, and I have been asking other people, and it seems people are starting to come around, and I feel like people are coming around because of positive health reports on Robert Woods. But you remember this, at draft time, I like Treylon Burks, but I had him in tier 2. Everybody told me that's why I hated Treylon Burks. But all my concerns about Treylon Burks, to say like I was warranted in them, is like, again, I'm not 100% right. I've been wrong before. I've been wrong on draft prospects before. But everybody's now like mentioning what I mentioned, why I was off Treylon Burks and thought he needed a year before he was truly a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL. Some, like quarterbacks, need some development. Very talented. I just didn't think he was a year 1 guaranteed hit. And now the talk is not only is that he's not connecting well, and I'm not even talking about the health issue situation. I'm just talking about not connecting well, not looking too great on the field so far. But Robert Woods, every single report is he's healthy, he's back, he's looking good. And if Robert Woods is healthy versus Treylon Burks, I think the obvious answer is we know who Robert Woods is. And what does this offense do, Chris? Supports one. Yeah. For fantasy purposes. Yeah. You might get a second as like a wide receiver 4 or as a fringe tight end 1, depending on who it is. But you're basically getting 1 and checking out on everybody else.
Yeah.
Should it be Robert Woods and not Treylon Burks? Or is Treylon Burks, I'll spin it this way to say to you, because again, I'm the one that's out on Treylon Burks. Is Treylon Burks now the pick because he's sliding? You stash him and wait a few weeks for him to take over, if you still believe that he can take over Robert Woods.
I think the only way he takes over Robert Woods is if Woods just suffers an injury. You're right. They've only ever supported one wide receiver. It's been A.J. Brown, and that's it. Even if Julio played all 16, 17 games last year, I don't think he would have been a wide receiver 3. I don't think he would have. At best, he would have been maybe a flex. That's it, at best. And that's kind of how I feel about Treylon Burks. I like the athlete. I like the player. Maybe we're talking about him a little bit different next year. There's also reports that the Titans, may like to bring in a veteran wide receiver. So, like, all of a sudden you just maybe potentially add one more to the mix. I mean, yeah, maybe a Will Fuller. I doubt OBJ, but who knows, right? And then that would just throw Burks at the window. I got Burks as, like, wide receiver 47. I think I'm really, really low on him. And I got Woods as wide receiver 34. I'm with you. We already talked with Lauren. Like the player. Yeah, it's like we said about J.K. Dobbins. We want to see him on the field with some reps. We've seen it with Woods. That's encouraging to me. I know he's over 30. That's why we're getting the draft discount, because he's over 30 and he blew out his knee. But he's the guy. He's a great run blocker. He's going to be on the field quite a bit. And I think that Tannehill can support him. I think he could be a low-end wide receiver, too, that you're not spending that price on. You're getting him as maybe your wide receiver 4, maybe even 5 in some spots. And I think he has upside. I'm definitely not Woods, man. It's Woods or
this show is definitely Teams Woods. Team Woods. Let me look. I just downplayed Burks, but let me push back a little bit and come back to you and say maybe there's hope. If you go back 2 years ago, Corey Davis was wide receiver 30. Hey, that's the hope.
Took a bit,
but you mentioned Westbrook-Ikhine, and they seem to like him. He's going to be involved. I mean, there's reports as of today that Burks is behind Westbrook-Ikhine. But if Burks gets past Westbrook-Ikhine, the interesting problem here is 2 years ago they didn't have Austin Hooper. So is Austin Hooper part of the problem? It just feels like to me for him to get to Corey Davis, to be, and we're talking about a ceiling of wide receiver 30. Again, with the assumption of what you laid out is that unless Robert Woods gets healthy, if Robert Woods doesn't stay healthy, if Robert Woods stays healthy, the ceiling is wide receiver 30 for Burks. The ceiling's also there, and he has to look better, get past Westbrook-Ikhine, has to see Austin Hooper barely involved. So it's just too much? Should we just be completely out on Burks? Like, is he not even worth picking at 40? Or is it just the fact of like, okay, something does happen to Woods and then take him?
Yeah, I think the latter. I don't know if people should be completely out on Burks. I do believe like they're gonna roll with the veteran guy, and with Tannehill, he's gonna have I think a bit of a safety valve there to go to him, and they're already working out together. Like all signs point to Woods being just like ready to go inside this offense. But for where Burks is going, I mean, wow, they're actually side by side NFC now. Wide receiver 43 is Woods. Treylon Burks is 44. Kadarius Toney, Allen Lazard. Like I'm taking Toney. I'm taking Lazard. I'm taking probably Sky Moore in the better offense, better quarterback. Tyler Boyd is going as wide receiver 52. I think I'm probably out on MVS, but
Tyler Boyd finishes what, wide receiver 32 last year, somewhere right now.
And from week 11 to week 17, he was wide receiver 21 with Chase balling out. Like that is a terrific value if you're looking for like the unsexy pick from week 11. I did it this morning. From week 11 to week 17, he averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game. He was a top 25 wide receiver down the stretch, and overall he finished as a wide receiver 3.
And we're not saying take him a wide receiver 3. This is just purely because of ADP. This is 100%
You're just getting him like as wide receiver 5 or something, as like your 5th wide receiver.
And good grief, if anything were to happen to Higgins or Chase,
you got
these are league winners, people. This is how you win. So let's finish with tight end. One more, and then I have one more. You just made me think of a Chase question before we get out of here. Tight end. Okay. Are you taking Hooper anywhere in case he's the number 2?
Just in double tight end premium stuff. That's it. I think we'll talk about him in DFS.
Don't bring up
I think he'd be more of a
tight end premium.
I know, but that's it. I think we'd be talking about him in like maybe DFS, but he's not gonna be my starting tight end. No chance.
No chance.
Not in a 12-teamer.
I just skimmed
I'd rather
right
your boy Brevin.
Oh, I love some Brevin Jordan.
I'd much
I
rather
want to talk to Texans. We need to get the Texans need to come through.
They do, yeah. Next week.
Ryan Tannehill. Are we completely out on him at this point?
I think so. I was just double checking Tannehill and his passing attempts, and I was just trying to do like quick math.
Here's why. So as you're looking, I'll kind of answer my own question. The reason I've always been out on Tannehill is he's kind of the James Conner quarterback. If he loses that touchdown efficiency, he's not just he goes from QB 11 to he's QB 15. No, he goes from like QB 11 to QB 27. Like if he loses the touchdown efficiency, like there was a stretch last year where we're talking like Zach Wilson level of fantasy production.
He was brutal, man. I had him on some squads. He 21 touchdowns, and he had 14 interceptions, which was the second most he's ever had dating back to 2013. And, I mean, if something does happen to Woods, like, yeah, we're in on Woods. We like the bounce back. But, my goodness, if something does happen to him, this guy is, like, he's not even going to be a top 20 quarterback. Like, honestly, he
might need to rush for 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, the outlier. Yeah, absolutely. And he can do that. That's why I think you and I have liked him over the years, because he does have a little bit of a sneaky rushing floor to that. But my goodness, you look back at 2020 is clearly going to be the outlier with the 33 touchdowns and the 7 interceptions and the 3,800 yards. Like this is just a guy who is probably going to get 3,600 yards, 3,700 yards and throw 22 touchdowns. Like, whatever.
Exactly. Give me Trey Lance. I am on board with all your Trey Lance. So we talk. Before we get out of here, real quick, Albert M., who is Connor's handcuff? As of right now, I would go with Williams. Chris brought him up earlier.
I think so too.
He's the veteran. And Keontae Ingram, I think, replaces Chase Edmonds. I'm actually on Ingram over Benjamin, but for that role. I'm not for the backup situation. So I've been getting a lot of Williams. I've been getting actually a lot of both Williams, the Darryl and Damian, in a lot of places just because the potential that they ran. They're league average quarter or running backs, but the roles. So before we get just fun one, completely fun. I'm kind of curious. If everybody wants to jump in the comments after the show and help the show, by the way, you can give your answer to this one, and then you can say other. But the other can't be Cooper Kupp. It cannot be Cooper Kupp because it's too easy. I was just having a debate with somebody last night. Our CG from church, we went to a trivia night, and in between the questions, one of the ones is we started debating Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase just for fun. Jamar Chase for me over Justin Jefferson. And I bring that up too because there was actually a comment of why are you low on Justin Jefferson? I have him at 3. The consensus is 2. Seriously, buddy? Why are you low on Justin Jefferson? Shut the hell up. Anyway, just as a fun, would you take, if you could only take one wide receiver, Chase or Jefferson?
Are we talking about this year or in life?
No.
NFL or like in life?
The entirety of fantasy wide receivers at your disposal for 2022 outside of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
You're taking Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson?
I think I would take Jefferson. I like Chase better as an athlete. I think he's going to have a better NFL career. If I was to start a team and you're giving me wide, I would take him. But, man, Jefferson with the targets and the new offensive coordinator who spent time with the Rams, like, yeah, he's going to have the Cooper Kupp role. It's just like I just think things will open up for him a little bit more, where I don't think Chase will get the same type of targets. And he had a lot of deep catches last year that turned out to touchdowns. Maybe teams focusing a little bit more on him. I would just take Jefferson, but it's a good debate.
You just said why. You just said why. Because Justin Jefferson is coming off 167 targets. Yeah. That's not going up. Even if okay, and if he had 175, that's not going up. Don't come out with 175. He would need to get to Cooper Kupp. Jamar Chase on his heels as a rookie last year with Joe Burrow not even throwing as much as we thought he was going to throw. Didn't even throw 600 times last year. 128 targets on Justin Jefferson's heels in his first year. This is why I'm taking Jamar Chase, because you just give him 20 more targets. He's in front of Jefferson. I'm just saying. I'm taking Chase over Jefferson every single day of the week.
Grabs to 108. But think about what Jefferson did as a rookie,
40 fewer targets.
This guy's got 3,000 yards in 2 years. I mean, it's such a good debate because they're both studs. LSU boys, like they're fantastic. But Jefferson,
let's do it as of today.
88 and 14,
so
and then
we got to figure out what the bet is, because I haven't seen Chris Meaney in person in like 18 billion years.
It's been a while.
If things keep progressing well in the dating life, I might see Chris in 2023 for a reason.
Oh,
and
maybe.
if so, we have to do something live or bait.
We'll do a little
Chase versus Jefferson, and then we'll have to figure something out.
And next episode we'll have what the
decision is what it was.
Be.
Well, not next episode. Next episode with you next week. So everybody heads up. Tomorrow, Wednesday, if we're depending on where you're watching this in your area, Wednesday is Lauren. Next week, Chris will be back on Tuesday. One more time with Jeff, because he's moved to the flagship show. Next Wednesday, Jeff will be back, but might be the last show with Jeff before it's Chris and Lauren, and then we'll be 3 days a week in August. A lot of fun, a lot of stuff going on. But all in code gets you the 20% off at FTN. Make sure you're giving out thumbs up, subscribe, do all that. Help us out. Drop in your comments. And over at The Athletic, that's where all my stuff is. Tons of free offers. I don't know which one you might get. There's a bunch of them. Go get them and have fun. We'll see you later.